I want to get into the Special Operations Care Fund, which I know you play a huge part of, is the executive director. Can you tell the audience what you guys do and why your role in helping guys is so important?
Yeah, so our SOC-F's been around since 2013. I got involved with the organization while I was still active duty. A good friend of mine, David Kramer, who is the executive board president, started inviting me to their events earlier on. So I've been super familiar with the organization. I've been supporting it for years. And a couple of years ago, I was at a point in my life where I was ready to kind of make a move. I'd worked for Cryo Precision for 6.5 years, and the organization had grown to the point where they needed to hire somebody full time. And so about 2 years ago, I stepped in as the executive director. And our mission is to serve the special operations community by healing bodies, minds, and families. And that really kind of covers down on that biopsychosocial kind of model of care. And what we do, we say we fill the gaps. And what we mean, the gaps, meaning the treatments and therapies and everything that are not funded through the VA or normal, routes of medical care and mental health care. And so we, on the medical side, we focus a lot on traumatic brain injury, endocrine system dysfunction, which are, two of the issues, and operator syndrome, and a few other things. On the mental health side, we focus on substance abuse disorder. We focus on relational issues. Our goal really is to provide, the individual healing that's needed for the family to kind of come back together and heal. So we're a family-focused organization. And again, we're funding those things that the guys aren't going to get, or the spouses or the families are going to get, like through the VA.
I'm fascinated by this. Can you give us an example of a type of treatment that's been very beneficial for people from your world that you could not get at the VA, but that you guys would help with, that is, to you, very beneficial?
Yeah, so we're actually in the process of a study. It's been ongoing for the last 1.5 years. We probably have another year to go. But what we're looking at is using like 3 modalities to treat TBI and PTSD. The first is hormone replacement therapy. So that's to get the endocrine system back up to where it should be at. The next one is transcranial magnetic stimulation. And then the third one is psychedelic therapy. And so we have pathway A and pathway B. Pathway A, we're trying to determine, we know that all 3 of those are effective, but if we do them consecutively, and in what order do we get the best results? And so pathway A was hormone replacement therapy, transcranial magnetic stimulation, and then psychedelics. And now we're in pathway B, where the guys will get hormone replacement therapy, the psychedelic therapy, and then transcranial magnetic stimulation. And what we're seeing across the board for just about every guy is it's amazing. It's changing lives. It's helping to reset the brain. It may in fact be healing some of the traumatic brain injury. But yeah. So the results so far are very promising.
And this is what I really want to touch on, because I've heard some guys, again, from that special mission unit world on your side and the Navy side, talk about how psychedelics in non-traditional treatment saved their lives. I mean, one guy was very open, like, I was going to probably commit suicide before I got treatment. The VA wasn't working. He felt like it was just throw pills at it. And then he did alternative medicine, and he's as happy as could be, and his life is completely turned around. If you asked me 5 years ago about psychedelics, I'd be like, isn't that a drug that hippies do, right? Isn't that like from the 1960s? My opinion's done a complete 180 because I've heard so many guys. For you, you know more about it than I do. Could you explain to the audience who maybe hear that word and think, wait a second, like, is this a music festival, or is this getting the guy's brain fixed? Why is that important, and what stigmas or taboos would you reject for people who might have an issue with it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, psychedelics have been around for a while. I think in the 60s and the 70s really gave psychedelics a bad name, LSD and some of the others, because of its recreational use. obviously, our background as a country, starting off as a, Judeo-Christian country, we looked at things like alcohol and drugs and whatnot is very bad. And obviously, if they're abused, for sure, it's very bad. So kind of walk into it with that stigma. And then like personally, and I'd smoked a little bit of weed, like a month before I took off for the Army. So I had zero exposure to any drugs, much less psychedelics. So when I first heard about them, I was like, okay, what's going on here? It's definitely a foreign thing to me. But as I stepped in as the executive director and started taking a look at what we were actually doing and the results, it was pretty amazing. The two psychedelic compounds that we use is ibogaine, which comes from the iboga plant, and then 5-MeO-D3 or the DMT. I would say that those are not recreational drugs. So, because I'll talk to a lot of guys who are like, hey, am I going to get addicted to these things? And my answer is like, no, you won't. It just, they don't have that addictive property to them. Especially with the ibogaine and some of the 5-MeO-D3, one of the experiences you go through is like one of those, I'm like one and done. Because the experience, while it can have very, very good results, the process of going through that can be very difficult. So I reject, the idea that psychedelics don't have a place in our society or our culture and healing and whatnot. I've just seen too many, guys make a turnaround because of psychedelics. Obviously, we need to think really long and hard about, who needs them and kind of, that screening process and then, what is actually happening. I think because of the stigma of psychedelics, there hasn't been a lot of research in that area, but now that veterans are experiencing a lot of benefit from psychedelics, you have places like Stanford and a couple of the other medical schools that are actually doing studies and looking at exactly what's going on to the brain and what's happening emotional and whatnot as a result.
Do you think if we look back in 10 years, 15, 20 years from now, do you think this alternative treatment method, psychedelics, everything you're talking about, do you think that's pretty much going to become kind of the standard norm? Will it happen sooner than that?
I think there's a lot of forces at play, especially with like pharmaceutical companies, and really it's going to come down to, the FDA, the whole FDA approval process and the source and whatnot. I think we'll look back in 10 years and we'll have grown a lot. I hope that psychedelics don't go away, but it will have 10 years from now, it will save so many lives. And I'm really hoping the process that nonprofits like SOC-F and others that are funding these therapies is beneficial and kind of pushing that across, the finish line, so that, veterans, law enforcement, whoever would benefit from that kind of therapy would have that available to them.
When you look back at your career, I'm very curious what your answer to this is going to be. Now your goal in life, your purpose in life is you're really helping veterans. You're helping people who want to get better, who have struggled, who've been through a lot. And I think that's absolutely incredible. You go back 15 years ago, you were fighting terrorists, killing bad guys. For you personally, would you say they're fulfilling at the same level, or did you enjoy one more than the other?
Yeah, I think the new job with SOC-F is probably more fulfilling. I didn't have a problem with taking life, and I know that there's evil in the world and it needs to be dealt with. But a lot of the guys that I'm helping now are former colleagues, or just people that I have a connection with because of being in the special operations, and seeing the guys' lives changed, seeing marriages kind of reunited and healing and growing and kind of all the things. Yeah, it's amazing.
I figured that was going to be your answer. And I think that is such a great way to look at it. And plus, you're in the moment now, right? This is what you're doing now. You're not, wishing for the past. You're thriving here. If somebody was eager to help SOC-F. Do you guys take donations? And if so, could you tell the viewers where they could donate to?
Yeah, we take donations. You go to our website and donate there on the website. They can reach out to me. We're an organization that thrives and wants relationship. And so what we do is we like to pride ourselves on getting to know our donors. But, they're interested. If the viewers are interested, they can go to our website and donate there, or they can reach out to me on my email. It's Jeremy at SOC-F.org. So Jeremy at SOC-F.org.
And it is the website SOC-F.org?
It's www.soc-f.org.
Perfect. And I hope anyone who's listening to this right now and finds it fascinating and wants to learn more, please visit that website, because you're doing a lot of important stuff. And I think that the fact you're into alternative medicine and you talk about saving lives, it's incredibly important. And that's why I wanted to do this interview and share your message.